Welcome to our channel. In today's episode, you will learn about the mysterious Anunnaki, powerful beings who, according to legend, came to us from outer space. We invite you to learn their history, their influence on humanity, and their mysterious connections with our civilization. Before we begin our journey, make sure you are ready for fascinating facts, extraordinary mythological tales, and surprising discoveries. Meet the Anunnaki, the gods from the stars who created the civilization of Sumer. Sumer is a land located between two great rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, in southern Mesopotamia. About 5,000 years ago, the first highly developed human culture was born. The Sumerians created cuneiform script, built cities and temples, created art and literature, and developed science and law. They were also deeply religious and believed that everything they achieved, they owed to the gods from the sky. Sumerian mythology is one of the oldest in the world. Its elements can be found in many other ancient beliefs, such as the mythology of Akkad, Babylonia, and Assyria. Some researchers also see similarities between Sumerian myths and biblical ones. Sumerian mythology tells of the beginnings of the world, the creation of man, the flood, the Tower of Babel, and the Garden of Eden. It also tells of the Anunnaki gods, who were both creators and judges of human destiny. The Anunnaki were descendants of the sky god Anu, who was born from the primordial waters of Nammu. Anu was the first of the great gods who created the universe and divided it into three spheres: heaven, earth, and the underworld. Anu ruled over the heavens, his son Enlil over the earth, and his other son Enki over the underworld. Each of them had their own family and court of gods, who helped them manage their domains. The gods from the sky inhabited the planet Nibiru, orbiting far beyond the orbit of Pluto. Nibiru had 7 moons and its own sun, named Zeus. On Nibiru, the living conditions were harsh, long and cold winters and short and hot summers. The Anunnaki had to adapt to these extremes and developed their technology and science to ensure their survival. They were superhuman beings, possessing great power and knowledge. They could travel through space, heal diseases, manipulate matter and energy, create life, and influence the fates of other beings. They were also long-lived and beautiful. They had human form, but were taller and stronger than humans. They also had wings or halos, symbolizing their divinity. The Anunnaki had their own religion and beliefs that shaped their worldview and actions. They believed in the existence of a supreme god named Anshur, who was the father of Anu and created everything from himself. They also believed in destiny and cosmic harmony, which they called the Mi. The Mi are a set of laws and principles governing all things, which the Anunnaki had to obey and protect. The Mi were stored in sacred tablets or seals that gave the gods their attributes and functions. The gods from the stars observed the earth with curiosity and fascination, seeing it as a source of life and wealth. Over time, they decided to visit and explore it more closely. They did not expect, however, that this decision would change their destinies forever. The Anunnaki arrived on Earth about 450,000 years ago. When their planet Nibiru approached Earth's orbit, the first of them to land on our planet was Ea, son of Anu. Ea was the god of wisdom, water, and magic. He was also known by the name Enki, which meant Lord of the Earth, as he discovered the richness and beauty of the earth. He also became fascinated with the beings living on it, especially primitive man. Enki wanted to study their nature and potential, so he decided to create a new species of beings from them that would be similar to the Anunnaki but would serve them as slaves. Enki asked his sister for help, Nibiru, the Lady of the Mountain, who was the goddess of fertility and healing. Together they took several primitive humans to a laboratory in the Abzu and began to experiment with their genes. They added Anunnaki genes and genes from other beings to create the perfect worker for the gods. After many trials and errors, they succeeded in creating the first human, Homo sapiens. Man was similar to the Anunnaki, but smaller and weaker. He had intelligence and the ability of speech, but no soul or free will. He was obedient and hardworking. Enki named him Adamu, which meant he who is of the earth, clay, because he used his blood to bring him to life. Nibiru named him Adapa, the perfect one, as she was proud of her creation. Enki and Ninhursag created more people from the clay and blood of the Anunnaki. They created men and women. Some were destined to work in the mines, and others to work in the gardens. Some were destined to serve in the temples, and others to serve in the palaces. Enki and Ninhursag gave them names and taught them basic skills. The Anunnaki were pleased with the humans, who made their lives on Earth easier. Humans provided them with food, built them houses and cities, mined metals and minerals for them, and gave them worship and obedience. The Anunnaki treated humans as their property or children, but did not give them any rights or freedom. The Anunnaki were skilled cosmic travelers who used their advanced vehicles, called Mu, to travel between planets and stars. The Mu had anti-gravity engines and navigation systems that allowed them to travel great distances in a short time. They explored different worlds and established contact with other civilizations in space. The Anunnaki also had a high level of medical and biological knowledge. They could heal various diseases and wounds with their medicines and devices. They could also manipulate genes and clone beings. They were long-lived and could live for even several thousand years. These gods could create new life forms using their laboratories and incubators. They could also combine the genes of different beings, creating hybrids or chimeras. The Anunnaki could influence the emotions, thoughts, and behaviors of other beings with their words, gestures, or devices. They used their power and influence for various purposes. Some were good and wanted to help others. Some were driven by curiosity, others sought wealth and power, and some were even cruel, wanting to rule over other beings. The Anunnaki had a huge impact on the development of humanity, its culture, and civilizations. They taught humans basic skills such as agriculture, animal husbandry, construction, crafts, and trade. They passed on part of their knowledge and technology, such as writing, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and metallurgy. They established a hierarchical system in which they themselves were the supreme rulers and humans their subjects or slaves. They introduced a legal system in which they themselves were judges and executioners. Humans had to obey them and pay them tribute. They established a cult system in which they themselves were objects of worship and adoration, and humans had to offer them sacrifices and prayers. The Anunnaki also influenced the formation of the human psyche and personality. They instilled in humans some of their traits and emotions, such as intelligence, speech, curiosity, creativity, love, hatred, jealousy, fear, or anger. They instilled in humans some of their values and ideals, such as honor, justice, freedom, loyalty, or courage. The Anunnaki were powerful and influential beings who left an indelible mark on humanity and its history. The Anunnaki are masters of construction and technology, who created many magnificent cities on Earth. Their cities reflected their power, wealth, and their specializations and interests. For example, Eridu is the oldest city of the Anunnaki, where Enki studied science and culture. In the Abzu temple, he stored the Mi tablets with knowledge about everything. Nibiru is the holiest city of the Anunnaki, where Enlil exercised religious and legal authority. In the Akher temple, he kept seals with authority over others. Uruk is the largest city of the Anunnaki, where Anu resided as king of heaven and earth. In the Ina temple, he kept insignia of majesty and wealth. Babylon is the most famous city of the Anunnaki, where Marduk was the patron of humanity and culture. In the Esagila temple, he kept attributes of wisdom and power. Sepur is the most mysterious city of the Anunnaki, where Utu dealt with astronomy and astrology. In the Ababar temple, he kept maps of the cosmos. The Anunnaki and humans lived together on Earth for many thousands of years. During this time, they established various relationships that shaped their fates and histories. These were not simple and unambiguous relationships, but complex and diverse. They depended on many factors, such as character, goals, needs, and feelings of both sides. The Anunnaki treated humans as their property and could dispose of them as they pleased. Humans, on the other hand, recognized the Anunnaki as their fathers and creators, to whom they owed their existence. The main purpose for which the Anunnaki created humans was slave labor. Humans had to perform tasks for the Anunnaki, such as digging for gold, building cities, cultivating the land, and making offerings. The Anunnaki also created humans to learn skills and knowledge. Humans had to learn from the Anunnaki how to live on Earth, how to use technology, how to write and count, and how to learn about the cosmos and history. Some Anunnaki grew fond of humans and began to befriend them, sharing their emotions, thoughts, and experiences with them. Some Anunnaki fell in love with humans and formed extraordinary bonds with them, showing them love, passion, and desire. So, the Anunnaki and humans had various relationships that influenced their fates and histories. Some of these relationships were positive and beneficial for both sides, while some were negative and harmful. The Anunnaki ruled the earth for thousands of years, but not forever. One day, they began to quarrel among themselves over power, wealth, and influence. They split into two factions, the descendants of Enki, who was favorable to humans, and the descendants of Enlil, who was unfavorable to humans. The wars between the Anunnaki were catastrophic for the earth and its inhabitants. The Anunnaki attacked each other with technology, destroying cities and nature. They caused earthquakes, floods, droughts, and fires. They killed people, animals, and plants. Humans suffered during the conflicts between the Anunnaki. Some tried to defend themselves or flee, others tried to prey. Some of them allied with one faction of Anunnaki against the other. Others tried to remain neutral or hide. Some even tried to rebel against the Anunnaki and free themselves from their yoke. The wars between the Anunnaki lasted for many years, until the final showdown occurred between the two most powerful gods. Marduk, king of Babylon and chief god of humans, and Nergal, ruler of the underworld and god of death. Marduk and Nergal faced each other in a great battle on the plain of Armageddon, where they used their most powerful weapons and spells. The battle was so fierce and bloody that both gods died. The deaths of Marduk and Nergal marked the end of the wars between the Anunnaki. The remaining gods were tired of fighting and understood that they could no longer rule the earth. So they decided to leave the planet and return to their homeland, Nibiru. Before leaving, they made peace among themselves and with the humans. They passed their knowledge and technology to humans so they could shape their own civilization. They said goodbye to the humans and promised them that they would return someday. The Anunnaki left Earth aboard their spaceships. They left behind traces of their presence, such as ruins of cities, temples, pyramids, clay tablets with cuneiform script, symbols, names of the gods, and myths about their deeds. Humans remembered the Anunnaki as their creators, masters, gods, teachers, friends, and lovers. They waited for their return and wondered what had happened to them. The Anunnaki had a huge impact on today's world and human civilization. They passed their legacy from generation to generation to the people who remembered them as their creators, masters, gods, teachers, friends, and lovers. Will the Anunnaki ever return to Earth? Will they be pleased with what humans have done with their legacy? Will they want to rule the Earth again or help people? Will they want to establish new relationships with people or create new beings? Will they want to share their new discoveries and experiences with people? Will they want to invite people to their homeland, Nibiru? There is no clear answer to these questions. Different scenarios and versions of the myth are possible. Everyone can imagine their own vision of the Anunnaki's return and their reaction to the current situation of humanity. Everyone can choose whether they want to be their friend, lover, student, faithful servant, or opponent. Thank you for watching our film about the Anunnaki. If you like this material and want to see more content related to mythology, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, write a comment, and share your thoughts. We greatly appreciate your support for the development of our channel and the creation of more films on the topic of mythology, which I hope will interest you. See you in the next episodes.